Welcome to Beyond the Bit Quantum Pathways, the podcast where we explore the exciting world of quantum careers. I'm Amir Rasool, your host, here to bring you inspiring stories from industry pioneers, researchers and innovators who are shaping the future. Whether you're a career changer, a curious mind or an aspiring quantum professional, this is your gateway to discovering opportunities in this groundbreaking field. Today we're joined by María Garcés, a rising voice in quantum computing who brings together technical expertise and educational passion. Currently pursuing her PhD in distributed quantum computing at the University of Edinburgh's Quantum Software Lab, María has already made significant contributions to the field through her work with industry leaders like IBM Quantum and Cisco's R&D quantum networking team. What makes María particularly interesting is her commitment to making quantum computing accessible to the next generation. As the co-founder and director of BQB Quantum Youth, she's building bridges between complex quantum concepts and high school students. She's also developed error correction libraries for quantum computing and contributed to various open source projects, including work during Google's Summer of Code. María brings a truly international perspective to our conversation, being fluent in 6 languages and having worked across multiple countries. Whether she's developing quantum error mitigation systems, mentoring students, or advanced distributed quantum computing models, she's constantly working to push the boundaries of what's possible in quantum technology. Welcome to the show, María. Hi, María. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me. Hi.
Fantastic. Obviously, I've already told listeners a little bit about you in your introduction. So I suppose we'll kick off with, tell me a little bit about what got you into quantum computing and how your BSc at the University of Bath in Physics kind of sparked your interest in this area.
Yeah, so I've always been really interested in science, and that's kind of, what I decided to pursue in university. I originally started a degree in mathematics and physics because I couldn't choose. But after 2 years of being in both degrees, my heart kind of went for physics, which wasn't what I originally thought I was going to do. I actually stumbled upon maths and physics kind of as a safeguarding from a pure maths degree.
Yeah.
And I slowly kind of really fell in love with it. And I really enjoyed the many aspects of basic physics that you learn during the first 2 years of undergrad. I wasn't necessarily super committed to quantum or super committed to a specific science, but it kind of knew that I wanted to work in this field. And after 2 years in my program, there was this opportunity to take a year in industry. So it's called a placement year in the UK.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I discovered the world of quantum technologies. And that's when I started, falling down the rabbit hole.
Okay. So interesting. So that was at Cisco's R&D quantum networking team, right?
Yeah. So I spent 30 months at Cisco and I basically discovered the word quantum networks and spent 30 months working on researching them and how they might work and what they might look like. And it was a very interesting time because the existing Cisco quantum research group that now exists wasn't really there at the time. It was mostly, especially when I started, engineers that were getting started and starting to learn what quantum networks were and how Cisco might play a role in the world of quantum technologies. So I got to learn from scratch with these experts that already had, these incredible careers in the world of classical networks. And it was kind of eye-opening because for the first time, I saw what real research might look like outside undergraduate labs. And I really, really liked that. So that's kind of how I fell into the quantum world and why I'm kind of still there. It's more of a passion for research, I think.
Okay, a couple of things on that. So physics, I was talking to somebody else quite recently and their journey into quantum was through physics. And they didn't think it was going to be that either. And I suppose the question is, what was it about physics that kind of made you pick it over maths? What was the spark?
Yes, I think there's a level of ego to physicists that mathematicians don't have. I think mathematicians need rules and they need, axioms and things to come from somewhere, whereas mathematicians can be a little bit more, hand-wavy and say, we have these models and these models work and I'm going to make up a model and I'm going to try to understand the world around me and I'm going to be, going to have enough ego to think that I can understand the things happening in front of me and I understand how, water falls into a river.
Yeah.
And I think that type of drive, that type of, self-assertion that you can understand this, you can make it work, you can make a model out of it that will be true, is, in my opinion, what pushes a lot of people to love physics when they actually discover what physics looks like beyond, what you learn in high school.
Yeah.
And for me, it was certainly a little bit of that. It was a little bit of, knowing that I could in some way understand the rules of the game and I could in some way, play with them, which is not something that I think you can touch so easily in other areas of science, either because you need, the axioms and the strict rules and the strict proofs, or because you might be working directly, in the biology world where you're actually working with like real active things that aren't just invisible forces that you're manipulating, especially when you go down to quantum stuff. So I think it was more like a game for me. It was a little bit more shiny. It was a little bit more fun.
Interesting.
Very scientific answer there.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great. Like I said, this is all about educating people, and I think people are interested to hear, people's journey. So I suppose at Cisco, the quantum networking team, what kind of things were you working on? And also for context, when was this? What year was this? So people can kind of...
I think this was, 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
And the majority of my time there, I spent learning. So I spent a lot of time discovering what a paper was. So I remember, it was quite a big shock when they came to me and they gave me a pile of papers. And I was like, oh my God, what is a paper? What are these things even used for? So I learned a lot about, quantum networks. I learned a lot about classical networks. And then I started participating in something called the Centre of Quantum Networks, which is a consortium in the States made up of different universities that has multiple reading groups at different levels. So Cisco is an industrial partner of this consortium. And I kind of joined a lot of these reading groups to learn more directly from academics, which was really fun.
Yeah.
And from there, I started working on some projects. So I did some pattern work, and I also worked on simulating quantum networks. So things like entanglement distribution and how you might think of distributing entanglement through a network in kind of a pulsating manner. So it's maintained depending on the requirements your potential quantum servers might need. These were all things that at the time I kind of didn't understand why I was doing them.
Sure.
As I've learned more, the picture has started opening and I've started realizing, oh my God, these things I was doing back in 2021 made sense.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was mostly just discovering what words meant, to be honest, and discovering and playing with them, with the tools I had and with the guidance I had at the time, which was great. So I played with things like NetSquid and Sequence, which are these simulators of quantum networks that I assume still exist, but at the time were the peak of the technology. And I just spent, my days asking questions and figuring out what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You also did an internship at IBM in quantum as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So that was my most recent role. And I spent more than 30 months there. I don't know if it was a year and a half or something like that. And that was within the community team. So since I left Cisco, I've had quite an interesting journey through quantum because I went back to university, and since then, everything I had to do couldn't be, full time. It had to be the part time, or it had to be through some sort of fellowship or some sort of small research program. But the summer after Cisco, I was looking for a proper internship role that was full time. And at the time, IBM offered a quantum community advocate position as an intern in the UK. So IBM, as you might already know, has this amazing educational outreach program in which they have these advocates that basically try to teach quantum computing and how quantum circuits work and how Qiskit works to the general populace. It's all available, it's all open source, and there's these challenges that happen every year. And they were basically looking for somebody to start doing that type of work in the UK as part of their Europe and Africa program. And that was me.
Wow.
So I got into the role and basically spent a lot of my time during that summer. And after that, part-time during the last year of my degree, basically working in education and teaching people about quantum computing and proposing things like an A-level program for quantum computing within physics, and just trying to kind of push for quantum computing education from a face-forwarding perspective to, to just people in the UK, but also kind of from a educational perspective to the government and to places like NQCC during the yearly quantum hackathon.
Excellent. And you're currently pursuing a PhD in quantum informatics as of August last year, I believe?
Yes. Well, I think I started in September, but yes, pretty much.
Okay. At what point did you decide, yes, right, Kate, that's it. I'm going to go full on. I'm going to do the PhD, which is obviously at the University of Edinburgh, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. So that was an interesting one because I was already saying I wanted to do a PhD when I walked through 2 months of Cisco, I was like, oh my God, I love research.
Yeah.
I really want to do this. I think a PhD is what is needed. And a lot of people around me who were engineers very rightfully told me that that wasn't a good enough reason. Doing a PhD just because you like research isn't the way. You can do research without a PhD, and they were very right about that. But then as I continued working in the quantum field and I continued kind of exploring the different opportunities and the different things that were available, I started getting more and more motivated to do a PhD just because I really wanted to push this field, just because, there isn't that many, there's a lot of gaps and there's a lot of things that we're missing at the moment.
Yeah.
And in many ways, I think that having, a high level of preparation and understanding of the, depth of the field was kind of where I wanted to go. So that was kind of my motivation for a PhD. And specifically for quantum informatics, it was kind of coincidental. So I just applied to a lot of universities and to a lot of programs that I think were great. And QSL in Edinburgh is an amazing research group. Like there's so many people working in quantum together in one spot, which is relatively rare, especially at a country level. And I just got really lucky and got accepted.
Okay. So that's 4-year degree. What I suppose, what does the course involve? Can you tell us a little bit about that? What kind of things that you're going to be looking to study?
So it's really fun because what I'm doing right now isn't going to be what happens next year. So there is going to be a CDT. So in the UK, there's these Centre of Doctoral Training programs, which are basically a 4-year program in which 3 years you're doing a normal UK PhD in which you're researching. But the year before that, so the first year, you basically have like a crash course of the basics of whatever research you're going to be doing. So in quantum informatics, that would be a crash course of like quantum mechanics, informatics as a field and all those type of things. Now, I'm not doing the CDT. I'm part of the, let's call it test bed for the CDT. So we're trying out certain courses and certain projects and seeing how, students might perform in them before the actual CDT comes in. So for me, I get the incredible opportunity of having funding for 4 years and being able to take any courses I want to take in the entirety of the university, which is so incredible. And especially, coming from physics and being dropped into informatics, I am trying to learn, what an operating system is, what a kernel is, and what all these, fundamentals, complexity theory, for example, which is like massive in the quantum world. I no clue what that was. So learning, these basics of the computer science side of things, science side of things, which I wasn't really aware even existed before because I had only touched physics and parts of engineering, has been a really incredible thing. But apart from that, most of my time is just dedicated to research and doing little projects, as I feel most PhDs are doing. Yeah.
Excellent. You're also part of BQB Quantum Youth. And I think I believe obviously BQB exists in Europe, but you've helped co-found the Quantum Youth. What's its mission and goals?
Yes, so I'm a very big believer in open source for various reasons. I think it's been incredible for my career and especially for my learning. There's, especially in the quantum world, there's so much to learn from the quantum open source ecosystem that is maintained by companies like IBM, but also by just government bodies and university bodies and just by people who are just doing open source for the sake of open source. And when I co-founded BQB Quantum Youth, the goal was kind of to use the existing platform of BQB, but focus it more towards, students who might not be able to contribute to open source just yet because they might be, 16, 18, not know how to code or have like very basic knowledge of how code works or maybe not know anything about, quantum mechanics. So the goal was kind of to introduce the world of quantum computing in a very simplified manner to these students to kind of make them excited about it.
100%,
Yeah, and in case they are, considering what they might want to do with their careers, if they want to go into STEM, if they want to go into anything else, they try to push, the game a little bit towards STEM and just tell them that this technology exists and they're very likely going to be, the generation that's actually going to play with these computers. Most people who are working in the quantum industry right now that are senior, I think are not really going to be, the people who are maintaining and developing these computers once quantum advantage arrives. Whereas people who are just starting or not even started yet, those are going to be the people who are actually, making the programs and getting the advantage out of these computers. So just showing them that this technology exists and it's approachable for them now and how they can advance in this field if they're interested is useful. So we kind of do like short videos, and we're currently expanding to have like blogs, but mostly, content and things out there that are easy to see, available for everybody, short, that are in the platforms that people in this age gap are using. Like we mostly do Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We also have like a LinkedIn page in which we kind of show people that aren't our audience, but just people who might be interested in the project, what we're doing.
Yeah.
But our main goal is to have content for students 16 to 18 or even younger, 14 to 18.
Yeah.
That may make them interested in the world of quantum, because it's a pretty fun world to be playing in.
Well, 100%. That's one of the reasons why I recruit within it. So for those that don't know BQB, who are BQB, and also where can they find these resources?
Oh, so BQB is a bigger organization that comes from a think tank in Barcelona, and they do a lot of things. So one of the things they're really popular for is doing a yearly LinkedIn influencers in quantum ranking. But they also do a lot of other activities directly with people in events and also in conferences. The best way to find all the resources is probably to just check out BQB Quantum on LinkedIn. They're going to show up for sure. If you're specifically interested in BQB Quantum Youth, we have a webpage, which I'm pretty sure is like bqbquantumyouth.com. But also, if you check us out on YouTube, you'll be able to find like all the links from there too.
Fantastic.
And also just send us an email. It's bqbquantumyouth@gmail.com. We're always like really interested in kind of creating new projects and expanding our team. So if you're interested in the project and want to learn more, feel free to reach us out.
Brilliant. So you're pretty busy already, but you're also brand ambassador for Classic Technologies as well. So shifting towards that, what made you take on this role as well as BQB and your PhD and so on? So I suppose just telling us what a brand ambassador for Classic is, who Classic are as well.
Yes. So that's been a very fun thing that I kind of self-discovered as I walked through the world of quantum, was that, or just through my career in general, was that telling people about what I'm doing and how it's going opens up a lot of opportunities. And that's something that, especially in academia, is not always super encouraged. But I am like very active on LinkedIn, and I talk a lot about the things I'm doing, what I'm interested in. I even sometimes ask questions, which has meant that I've developed like this massive following of people that are interested in what I'm doing, because I'm kind of showing them how my career is progressing and how maybe they can reach the same steps I'm reaching. And that has really, in many, many ways, propelled me into many different opportunities, one of which has been this Classic ambassador role. So Classic is a company that does quantum software. They're incredibly cool. They do a lot of very interesting work. They talk and work directly with academics. And I was reached out by one of their, I don't know, I think he's the CEO. Pretty sure he's the CEO. And we had a little chat about, the goals of the company and what they were trying to do and how they wanted to kind of expand their work and their mission and make them more known. Because at the end of the game, it's a company. It's not, like in academia where you can just declare things in a paper. You actually have to, create a market and create an interest and create these products. So my role is mostly to just like tell people about Classic, tell people what they're doing through my social media, and kind of just, tell people about interesting opportunities and cool stuff that they're doing and how perhaps my research is attached to their work or how I might be using their platform, which is pretty cool. But it's something that I would have never been able to do without the following and without the, externalizing of information and of the things I'm doing on LinkedIn, which is quite cool because I recently read, I think it was yesterday, somebody wrote a number of messages that they had gone from John Prescott. I think it was 10 points that I've learned from John Prescott, something like that. It was an article. And one of them, they were talking about how talking about what you're doing and talking about, the conferences you go to and talking about everything that you're doing is incredibly important in today's world, especially in the tech world. Just saying that you exist and talking about what you're doing really, really helps people, especially young people, advance in their careers.
Yep.
So I suppose that's also a thing I really believe in. It's just like, maybe not everything, obviously, especially when you're, under contract, you can't talk about everything, but talking about, what you're doing, what your mission is, where you are, most of the time can really be good for career progression in any field.
Yeah, and how you got there, challenges, motivations, etc. I've been a tech recruiter for over 20 years. One of the things that's been consistently lacking is accessibility. These areas, they're cutting edge, to call it data science, machine learning, AI. And the big problem is people don't know how to get into it. And they see it and they think, oh, this could interest me, but I don't know enough about it. So the more we talk about it, the more resources we can get out, the more informed people will be, and spreading the word.
Yeah,
yeah. So have you done anything memorable, or as brand ambassador, have you been to any shows, or how does that work? Or is it just purely social media at the moment?
Yes. So no, so there was somebody from Classic Research who came to Edinburgh and presented, the entire platform to the research body, which was very cool. But apart from that, it's been mostly talking about how people may utilize the platform, how researchers may use it, or how students may use it, and kind of, opening the information up and the links up in a very clear and concise manner, instead of just, pointing people to the webpage and saying, like, this is the webpage.
Yeah.
Just being like, oh, if you're a student, you might be interested in this because of, actually clearly outlining what audiences may be interested in, what things that are available to them right now that are part of Classic's portfolio.
Okay. Fantastic. Like I said, I think that's fantastic. And it also ties into your LinkedIn page. Well, we might as well talk about that right now. You also maintain a LinkedIn page. I suppose what inspired you to create and maintain this group?
So I, do you mean a LinkedIn group instead of a LinkedIn?
Yes, okay. LinkedIn group. That's right. It's you and Juan, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So that was quite interesting, because back when I was on IBM, I was helping maintain a European quantum group, which still exists, that has quite a lot of big following, and it's most of the people that are working in the quantum world in Europe. And as my role, I was kind of vetting what was posted there. So I was trying to gain experience in how to, work with LinkedIn groups. And Juan, who is a collaborator in BQB Quantum, who is also a co-founder, reached out to me and said, hey, we are constantly on LinkedIn because we're both basically addicted to this. And there's so many roles that come out all the time. We might as well, create a group in which we just repost it. So that's pretty much what it's used for, is just a group in which anybody can repost any job that somebody promotes, or they can directly post a job that they want to, present in the quantum world. And it's basically just this amazing list of all the roles, basically live, that keep opening up in the quantum world that get presented on LinkedIn, which I think is the majority of jobs, at least in, industrially. And that's been quite fun. I think, leveraging social media platforms for this type of work is really useful and a smart thing to do, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah. And for those who don't know the group, what's the name of the group?
That's a great question. I don't actually know. I think it's...
I think Quantum's in there somewhere, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely Quantum Jobs. I'm pretty sure it's Quantum Opportunity Network.
Well, I tell you what, I'll post it, and I'll make sure I've got it, and I'll post it in the links.
Probably. But yeah, it's pretty much just like reposts of roles that are made available, really. It's nothing else more than that, which I think is great. It's like very one mission. It's no distractions. It's just one thing.
Yeah. So that's another thing that you're involved in. So far we've got BQB, we've got your PhD, we've got Classic Brand Ambassador. How do you find the time for all of this?
I think a lot of coffee is the truth. But I mean, most of these things don't take up that much time.
Yeah.
I really spend most of my days doing research for my PhD, which is really what I want to be doing. But other things kind of self-feed themselves in a way. Yeah. I mean, for the group, for example, the way I find time for that is just I uninstalled Instagram. So now when I go on my phone and I use the social media, it's LinkedIn, which is a little bit more useful for me. Probably as brain rotting, but at least it's a bit useful. For BQB, I mean, we really don't meet up really often to discuss things. We kind of have a system that we use all the time for our videos. We have like a template that we're using. At the moment, we're meeting quite a lot because we're interviewing people to expand the team. So we're having like 15 new students coming in. So it's a little bit more busy work at the moment, but on like a month-to-month basis, it's pretty much just a calendar of tasks that people have to do that have certain templates. And once a year, we kind of discuss what things we want to do for the next year. Really, it doesn't take up, many hours within a week. So it's just about keeping organized and keeping it all tidy.
Which I suppose also brings on to you being staying updated with the latest advancements in quantum technology, obviously from your research perspective. For those who are looking to pursue this field, and you can talk about quantum software lab as well, how do you go about it and what advice could you give people?
So I think the most important skill that I've learned in this world of research is learning how to read a paper. So when you're getting started, you're going to start with the basics. You're going to start with, papers from the 70s or the 80s, and you slowly are going to build your way forward, hopefully through things that interest you, and hopefully through, reading a paper that references another paper, and you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Let me Google what that may look like today and how that research might have advanced today. Also, you're doing, things that are available online, like the Quiz-Kit introductions. They usually have references. And hopefully most places that will teach you about things in a way that isn't the very basics will have references or other books to point you to. So learning how to go into those references and read them, especially when they're like highly academic papers, is incredibly useful because it gives you this skill to start being able to understand research at the very core of it and at the very edge of it. So being able to, pick up a paper that was published last month and understand what the research is about takes years, maybe, or at least many months if you already have an existing, background in physics and computer science. But developing that skill slowly, I think, is the right way of understanding what's going on in the quantum world. Because unfortunately, a bit like in AI, there's a lot of hype. I mean, we've seen it with, the market crashing and not crashing and then re-crashing. And with, the general things that happen in the quantum world, there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of misunderstandings. So being able to develop, your vision of how things work and your understanding of how things work may take a long time is, in my opinion, the way to do it.
So that's a great way to build your foundations.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose, with that, given your experience to date in this field, is there any advice you would give your younger self other than the learn to read papers?
I think that's a great question. I mean, as I've said before, I think talking about what you're doing is really important. Reading papers is really important. And I think having fun with it is also, the coolest way to do it. I mean, there's a lot of people in the quantum field who are having a lot of fun with what they're doing. I mean, every single time I read anything by Scott Arson or I see Bob Koech somewhere, I'm like, oh my God, these people are doing it right. They're actually having fun with this, which is, I think, the way to do it. A lot of people take, their job and the research a bit too seriously. And obviously, it's really important to do things accurately and to present things scientifically. But it's a fun world and it's weird.
It's gotta be fun. Fun stops burnout, in my opinion.
So just kind of doing that, and also, especially for people who are just starting, I mean, rejection is a very normal part of life. Everybody gets rejected. Even lecturers get so many of their projects rejected constantly. It's just how it works. So you're very unlikely to get the first, quantum internship that you apply to. You're very unlikely to get the first quantum fellowship that you apply to. You're almost certainly not going to get into every quantum PhD that you apply to. That's just not how the world works. So, I think for people who are just getting started, kind of understanding that rejection is part of it. And to continue doing what they're interested in and what they think is important and useful is kind of my main advice.
Fantastic. And finally, I suppose, what are your future career aspirations in this field? Obviously, you're originally from Spain. You're multilingual. Where are you looking to go next?
That's a great question. So I think, at least for now, I've got 4 years here.
True.
So that's great. That's,
better wrap up warm, as we said.
I know where I am for the next 4 years. After that, I will see, to be honest. I'm kind of hoping to pursue things where they're interesting. So, in the tech world, it would be really cool to go down the industry road. I mean, I love my time in industry, so doing research in industry would be very fun. And also really enjoying the academic world. Being able to sit down and just read for 3 days with nobody bothering you is quite fun. And I'm starting to work on papers and on presenting proposals. And I might be weird in this. I think I haven't done enough to be tired of it yet. But I'm actually quite enjoying it too. So for me, it's kind of open. I think I have 4 years to kind of make it first initial choice. So wherever the world is, a postdoc or a role after, I don't really mind as long as it's within research.
I suppose with the technology as well, it's going at such a fast pace. We don't even know where we're going to be 12 months, 24 months, 4 years from now, which is really exciting.
Oh, really fun.
Yeah.
It's, I think, especially, being in academia right now as a PhD student, where I kind of know where I'm going to be for a longer amount of time, at least in my scale of the world. Kind of looking at it from an external point of view, kind of seeing, the theater play and how things develop and what people believe or what people claim from the outsider perspective is really fun for me, which isn't a role I had before because I was in industry. I was actually participating in it. But seeing how, the two games are played and how they fit into each other, because especially in the quantum world, everybody in industry who's working on quantum has walked through academia at the highest level, right? That's why everybody who's got a quantum company has a PhD is because it's kind of a really self-feeding loop at the moment, which it might not be in the future, but it is now. So, seeing the other side of the coin is really interesting right now, and seeing how things look from the other perspective is a really cool position, at least for me, to be in right now. So I suppose that's another advice that I think is important, at least in the quantum world specifically, is just try both things before you commit to one. It is important to have a high level understanding of the, field, especially in such a technical field, and especially in a field in which everybody who's leading it right now has a PhD, realistically speaking, right? So if you want to understand how they think, if you want to understand why they play the game the way they play it, it might be useful to know how, their past selves developed the vision or the understanding they might have right now.
Excellent. Maria, I think that's that kind of covers everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I said in comments, I'll post a link to yourself, so a link to the group, a link to BQB Quantum, so people can get involved, get resources going, and see where they can join, I suppose, in the quantum journey.
Perfect. Great. Well,
thank you very much. Speak to you soon. And that's a wrap on today's quantum adventure. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, share it with a fellow quantum enthusiast, and leave us a review. It helps us reach much more curious minds. If you have any questions or feedback, please reach out at beyondthebit.quantum@gmail.com. Stay tuned for more exciting explorations into the world of quantum careers. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Until then, keep exploring the quantum possibilities.